Hey everybody, this is Flavio Romeo, and on this episode of the Towncast, we had a chance to talk to Glen Rock, New Jersey resident Mark Braff, who just published his first book called Sons of Baseball. And with Father's Day coming up on June 18th, this is a perfect book to give to your dad, to give to your son. It's such a great, so many great stories about Yogi Berra, about Mariano Rivera, so many very popular baseball players. And also, this Sunday, June 11, we have a special book signing at the Glen Rock Athletic Club. You can get more information on the Towncast.com. Go to events, and you'll see when that is. It's going to be, I believe it's 4 to 6 at the Glen Rock Athletic Club. And great opportunity for you to meet the author, have him sign the book for you, and give a great present to your dads. All right, be well, everybody. All right, everybody, here we are. I am with Mark Braff. We are in the Glen Rock Athletic Club, and if you haven't been here, you have to check it out. You can go online, look at grac.club, and check it out. It's such a cool space right here in Glen Rock. It's a little hidden gem, and I'm here with Mark Braff. Mark is the writer. I'm so excited. Father's Day is less than 2 weeks away, and Mark wrote this book, and this came out, just recently, right?
It came out in May 10th.
Came out May 10th, and he's joining us here to talk about it, Sons of Baseball. This is so cool. The stories are so awesome. I really appreciate you coming.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Pleasure.
thank you so much.
Happy to be here.
So you're a Glen Rock boy right now, right?
37 years.
37 years,
Right.
Yeah, you got some roots.
Yes, for sure. This is the longest I've lived in one place.
Is that right?
This house in Glen Rock.
And so where were you from originally?
Well, born in Brooklyn, but when I was 8 years old, we moved to Fairlawn, or as we called it at the time, this is what we told friends, we're moving to the country.
Coming from
Imagine.
Brooklyn. What part of Brooklyn?
The Flatlands area, East 57th Street. Not too far from where the Gil Hodges bowling alley used to be.
Oh,
I remember passing it in the car when I was a kid.
Didn't you interview? Did you?
Gil Jr. Yeah, he's in the book. Yeah, we were talking about the bowling alley.
Yeah,
he used to work there, in the summers.
Oh, that's so great.
When he was off from school. So, so we moved to Fairlawn in '64, the summer of '64, and graduated high school there. Went through the school system. Graduated class of '73.
Shout out to the Fairlawn High School class of '73.
50th reunion.
It's coming up.
Is this year?
Yeah, you haven't had it yet.
Haven't had it. It's going to be probably in the fall.
Nice.
September maybe.
That's a big one.
So that's yeah. Tell me about it. I feel it every morning when I get out of bed. So that's it'll be 50th, and so went to school in New Jersey, college rather, Rider University down in Lawrenceville, in Mercer County, and then got married a couple of years after college, and we lived in Fairlawn initially, 3rd Street apartment, and then we bought a house, our first house on Chester Street.
Okay.
And then we moved to Glen Rock in '86.
'86.
Yeah.
Well, what made you pick Glen Rock out of all the other places?
My wife is from Glen Rock.
Oh, okay.
She was raised here and went to high school here. And
we won't shout out her class.
So she, yeah, we won't. But she's actually younger than I am, so 74. But don't tell anybody. So she loved the town, and we were just looking for houses we could afford, frankly,
Yeah.
And we found a house that was for sale by owner, which enables us to afford it back in '86.
Yeah.
And we moved in and been
the
there
same house
ever
ever
since.
since?
Yep, ever since.
That's awesome.
Yep.
Well, it's a great town. I mean, it's such a family-friendly town. It's a very walkable town.
Oh, for sure. Right.
And of course, you've got the Glen Rock Athletic Club right here.
Right here. It's great. I was saying before we came on air that I hadn't been here in a number of years, and it looks fantastic. Renovations obviously have been done over the years, and the place looks great.
Yeah, and I love the Glen Rock Arts Council, what they do. All the painting on the windows, and during the pandemic it was tough because a lot of the stores have closed, and it's just these vacant shells of buildings.
Right.
And for the Arts Council to to go in and just kind of beautify it a little bit and give it some curb appeal. And now as they're filling in, it's just that much nicer.
Right.
Yeah, it's always been one of my favorite towns.
Yeah, it's terrific. I love the the tree-lined streets.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's talk about Sons of Baseball. Now, are you a baseball fan in general?
I love baseball.
Who's your favorite team?
Yankees.
All right, so we're going to be able to continue this conversation.
I passed the test.
Now that we've established that. So you grew up baseball fan.
Grew up a baseball fan. I really started, it's funny because you mentioned when I moved to Fairlawn in '64, and that's really the summer that I started following baseball.
Oh, is that right?
So, yeah, and for whatever reason, I gravitated to the Yankees.
Yeah.
My father was a Yankee fan, still is. He's
There you
94.
go. 94.
94.
God bless him.
Living in Fairlawn. But
He's seen a lot of championships.
He's
seen them all.
He's
Just about.
He's seen them all. But I don't remember as a kid that he was, fanatical about watching games or anything. I
Because
think
he couldn't.
Well, yeah. Well, even I remember him watching games, but yeah, not as all. Well, obviously not like today.
Yeah,
you can't. But I think I probably gravitated to the Yankees more because those were the players I knew.
Yeah.
Mantle and Maris and Elston Howard and Whitey Ford. I mean, these were guys I knew. You hear about them all the time.
Oh, yeah.
So I probably started watching them for that reason.
Well,
So-
especially Whitey Ford, especially here because he played for the GRAC team.
Yeah, he pitched one phenomenal game, 17 strikeouts.
That's it. That's all you need to do.
He was on leave from Fort Monmouth.
Yeah, that's great.
That's incredible, right?
So you grew up a Yankee fan, and are you a writer? I mean, what did you do as a career?
I did public relations work for a little over 40 years.
Okay.
The last 27 of which was as a consultant under Braff Communications until I retired in November of 2020.
All right, so you could help us promote this podcast.
Promote the podcast, and as I'm finding out, I feel like I'm working again because the publisher doesn't do much heavy lifting.
You have to do it all yourself.
And that's a common thing. It's not,
Yeah.
not unique to me. So I'm back in the PR game apparently. I thought I was done, but they sucked me back in.
What inspired you? How long? First of all, how long did it take you to write the book?
I started doing interviews in January of 21.
So it was like a pandemic project.
So from the time, it wasn't intended that way, but
Right,
yeah.
sure it came that way.
It was more of a retirement project. So from the time I started to the time it was published was almost 2.5 years.
Wow.
Yeah,
And
a lot longer than I expected.
I was going to ask you that. Yeah. How long did you think? Well, first of all, I have to ask you. Talk a little bit about the premise because I think the premise is so unique.
Yeah, the idea is that I kind of always had in the back of my mind the question of what's it like to be the son of a Major League Baseball player, and the reason I'm thought about it is because so many boys men I should say, have fond memory of when they were boys, having a catch with their dad out in the yard, that sort of thing.
Or watching a game
It was
together.
the whole basis of Field of Dreams, more or less.
Yeah,
the movie.
absolutely.
Having one last catch with his dad who had previously
yeah.
died. But I thought, if your dad's a major league player, what's that like? Because first of all, he's gone for a good part of the summer when you're home from school.
81 games he's away.
Right.
Plus all the traveling in between.
And even when he's home, he's got to be at the ballpark from far more than the 2.5 hours it takes to play the game. So he's away a lot. And also, on his day off, when he's home, those rare days off, does he really want to throw around
pick
the
up a
ball?
mitt again.
I say in the book, it's like an accountant's son saying, "Hey, Pop, you want to add some numbers for fun?"
Let me get the calculator.
Yeah. I don't think so, Junior. So it's kind of like that, And so and so many other things too. It's like, young boys, for better or worse, so much of their self-esteem is wrapped up into how they do at sports. And so when they play baseball, these sons of major leaguers, people know who their dad is.
Yeah.
And they can't help but compare. And it's the bar is as high as it could be.
Yeah.
Your dad's in the major leagues. He could be the worst guy on the major league team, but he's still one of the greatest baseball players in the entire country, just to get to the major leagues. And so now, are people expecting you to live up to that? How does that pressure work?
Yeah.
And then going out with your dad to restaurants or whatever, or your entire family, and
being
having
accosted constantly.
people interrupting
and you talk
you.
about that as a couple
I mean, it's just such a unique way to grow up, and then spending time at the ballpark and having access that other kids can only dream of. You know, being in the clubhouse and the dugout and on the field.
And I guess as a kid, you kind of take it for granted because that's how you grew up. You're growing up
Right.
in the clubhouse. It's like, I guess every child,
Right.
every kid must be like that. But then when you talk to your own friends
Right.
and you realize, okay, I'm doing something that no one else I know does.
Right. Well, Brandon Guidry, Ron Guidry's son,
Right, yeah.
tells a story very much like that, where he says, you know, when my dad was pitching for the Yankees in the summertime, we rented a house in Franklin Lakes. And so we lived in New Jersey, and I spent my summers going to the games in the clubhouse, around the ballpark, and also taking advantage of the cultural opportunities in New York. My mom would take us to museums and Broadway shows and things like that. But then in the wintertime, when the school year started, in the fall, it was time to go back to Lafayette, Louisiana.
Yeah.
And he said, when I went back home, there was nobody to talk to about any of the stuff in New York because no one could relate to anything that I was doing. And he said, frankly, they probably didn't really care.
Right.
So he
they
said,
don't want to hear you because it sounds braggy.
Right. And they didn't care.
Yeah.
Oh, you went to a Broadway. Yeah, good for you.
Great.
Yeah.
Who cares?
So he said, when I was in New Jersey, my friends were mostly the kids of other Yankee
ball
players and a few neighborhood kids. And then I went back. So there was the New Jersey Brandon, New Jersey/New York Brandon.
Right. And then
there was the Louisiana Brandon.
Yeah.
Totally different worlds, you know. And the people in New York didn't care about Louisiana. So,
Yeah.
So it was just, he said he was living two lives, you know.
And you've got some great people that you've interviewed. I mean, you've got Gil Hodges' son, Mariano Rivera's son, Ron Guidry's son. Of all of the people that you interviewed, did you have one like special interview or one that you were looking forward to, or one that maybe you didn't expect them to say what they were going to say, or were there any surprises?
Yeah, well, you know, I one thing was that it seemed that I think all the sons really enjoyed telling their stories. They seemed to enjoy talking about their boyhoods and also talking about their dads and their dad's legacy, for the most part. I mean, there were a couple of cases where the sons and their fathers were not as close as the others were. But for the most part, they seemed to really enjoy it.
Yeah,
You know, I didn't know what to expect going in. I thought it was going to be like pulling teeth to try to get them to talk about things.
Right.
But it wasn't like that at all. They were really happy. In fact, one of them, Andy Hargrove, Mike Hargrove's son, contacted me after the interview. The interviews are all done by Zoom, by the way. So he and I were talking via Zoom. And he contacted me a day or two later, and he said, you know, I just want to let you know how much I enjoyed doing the interview because my son was off camera. You couldn't see him. And he was sitting there listening to this, and he's heard stories that he's never really heard before.
Oh, wow. Talking about his grandpa.
And it was so good. Yeah. And also Andy's childhood.
Yeah.
And he said, you know, it was so great for him to hear those stories, like things I would never really just think to say.
Right. They're just things that happen, but you don't
You
feel
know,
like,
it doesn't
I need
come
to
out-
tell you this.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So, yeah, I
that's
think
cool.
they really enjoyed it. Yeah.
Well, and that's a beautiful thing about this is that the relationships between sons and fathers, you know, obviously transcends baseball. It's not just about, it's a baseball book. You know, it's not about a baseball book. It's about relationship with dads and their boys. And, you know, my dad was a tailor, and, you know, the most boring place to go in the world is a tailor shop, you know. But you have memories, and you have, you know, things that have, like, he happened to be Joe DiMaggio's tailor.
Oh, no kidding.
And Mel Stottlemyre.
And Joe was always impeccably dressed, so your dad must have been pretty good.
He did well, yeah. So, and just, you know, it all happened as a fluke, but he had a lot of, so, you know, going to the shop and waiting for Ed Figueroa to show up, who never showed up, Ed, that day. So I have a picture of my arm around the mannequin with Ed Figueroa's suit hanging on it. That's my picture.
Right. Well, Ed, if it still fits, it's waiting for you. So.
So that's why I thought it was a great Father's Day gift. It's just, it's a great read, and there's so many stories, and you know we tend to glamorize and put athletes and movie stars on pedestals and think that they don't struggle with the same things we struggle with, but they're not all stories of joy and happiness.
No.
I mean, there was divorce involved. There was, you know, because
they went through, you know, that's another thing that was striking, and probably it shouldn't have been for me, but their stories are the same as everyone else's stories. You walk up to 20 people on the street and ask them about their lives, and you'll find the stories are very similar in the sense of, as you said, divorces, happy marriages, family tragedies, accomplishments, sorrow, failures.
Dad's being away.
The only difference is the backdrop.
Right.
You know, the rest of us can't really
It happens
comprehend
to be on a diamond. Yeah.
what it was like with all the other stuff going on.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, I like the one story. I think I wrote it down. It was the Vada Pinson. I love that story about when he was, he would always go in there and in the locker room and scoop up the bazooka gum.
Right.
So tell me when he told you.
It's amazing how many times bazooka gum came up in conversations with these guys.
Yeah,
I guess it was
you were
like
a kid. That was it.
Exactly.
And you got the comics.
And then the clubhouse, they had these big tubs of bazooka for the
now
players.
it's double bubble.
Yeah, right. Well, yeah. So they had these big tubs. So little Veda, his dad was playing for the Cincinnati Reds. Really good player, by the way. Borderline Hall of Famer, I would say. And Veda had 3 sisters. And they weren't allowed in the clubhouse. But Veda was. So his mission, he was always on an assignment to load up on bazooka. So one day during batting practice, he's stuffing his pockets, his socks, his pants, just loaded with bazooka gum. And he's about to leave.
He's going to be the hero to his sister.
He's going to be a hero and all the kids who couldn't get in the clubhouse. And Frank Robinson walks in, teammate of Veda Pinson's, and he looks at the bazooka tub, and he says, "Where's all the gum?" And he looks at Veda, and Veda looks at him, and he sees this like guilty look on
because he was little. Was it like
little Veda's face. I don't know.
7, 8, 9 years
probably
old.
An old young kid at the time. And Frank says, nods, and he picks Veda up by the ankles and shakes him, and all the gum comes flying out onto the floor.
Something out of a movie.
Yeah, and it was like Uncle Frank because
they were
Frank
close.
and Veda were very good friends.
Yeah.
So it wasn't, a threatening thing, but it was more of a fun thing. He said it was just.
That's so great.
So at the time, it was embarrassing, but as he tells it now, he laughs.
Well, and I feel like, as a kid growing up, and in the clubhouse, you're close, and especially that generation. I feel, they didn't jump around as much. There wasn't free agency.
Right.
Players weren't jumping from one team to another, so you were there. You were there for the long haul. 10, 12, 15 years.
Oftentimes, right.
Your
Unless you were
career.
traded.
Yeah.
Right.
So, the players became really tight. And then, of course, all the kids became tight. So, you were hanging out with clubhouse kids.
And the families.
Yeah.
The wives and the other kids, right? All the brothers and sisters and families used to do things together, barbecues and things like that.
Yeah.
That's what it was. I don't know if it's like that today or not.
So, listen, it's Sons of Baseball, and you have a foreword. How did you get Cal Ripken Jr. to write the foreword of this book?
I have not, to this day, had any direct contact with Cal.
Really?
No. It was all done through his PR guy. See, that's one of the things I learned in the process of doing this book. I thought, in my naivete, okay, if I'm fortunate enough to get enough interviews to have enough content for the book, I'll write the book. And I'll have a manuscript, and I'll send it around, and see if anybody wants to publish it.
Which is what you did initially.
Well, no, I didn't do it.
Oh, okay.
That's how I thought it was going to work.
Okay.
Then I found out about all this other stuff. I have to have an agent, a literary agent, and in order to get an agent, I have to do a whole book proposal, which is a big deal. Not like 2 pages. It's like a whole PowerPoint thing. And
demographics.
It's
here's
all
the targeting.
The whole thing. How you market it, all this stuff.
Kind of what you did in your PR life.
It was a project in and of itself. It was So, and then the agent, when an agent expressed interest, she said, it would be a good idea to have a prominent person write the foreword. Who's gonna do that?
Right.
So she says, well, we have a connection at the agency to Tony Gwynn Jr. Maybe he would do it. Turned out that didn't pan out. So I'm thinking, Cal Ripken Jr. would be quite reputable. Right?
Son of a ball player.
Big name and has a great reputation. So I said, okay, so the Orioles head of alumni affairs had previously gotten me some contact info, which led to me interviewing the sons of Boog Powell and Dave McNown. So I circled back with this guy with the Orioles, explained what I was looking to do, and he said, well, look, I can't give you Cal's direct contact info, but I can give you his PR guy. Okay, John Maroon is the guy's name. So I reached out to John. John got back to me right away, and he said, I like the idea for the book. He said, I can't promise anything because we get a lot of these inquiries every month. He says, when I have a few, I take them to Cal and see what he says.
Right.
I said, okay, let me know. So like maybe 3-4 weeks later, I heard back from John, and he said, Cal says he'll do it.
Wow.
I said, oh, great.
Wow.
And then, a couple months later, it was done. So
That's
there you
awesome.
go. So I don't know Cal.
Did you send him a book?
I sent one. I didn't have Cal's contact.
Right. You sent one to his agent.
I sent one to John.
Yeah.
So hopefully Cal got it.
That's great. Again, it's such a great Father's Day gift. Now, listen, there's a special event that's coming up on July 11th, which is the Sunday before Father's Day.
June 11th.
June 11th. What did I say?
July.
Yeah, don't come July 11th because no one's going to be here. But on June 11th, the week before Father's Day, right here at the Glen Rock Athletic Club, Mark is going to do a reading and a book signing for Sons of Baseball. So you can come down, you get a chance. It's going to be selling books here. You'll get a chance to pick up the book, have it autographed, listen to some excerpts from the book, and you don't even have to go anywhere to do your Father's Day shopping. You can come right here to the Glen Rock Athletic Club, talk to Mark. He's going to sign the book for you, and it's such a great read. Your fathers, your husbands, your grandfather, you're going to love this book because it's the generations. I mean, there's some that they weren't all Boog Powells and all Jim Bountons. I love that you had Jim Bouton's son in there, by the way.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And
His father was.
so Jim. If you don't know who Jim Bouton was, an incredible pitcher. Talk about what his son said. I love that.
Oh, yeah, Michael is his son.
Yeah.
And he said, when I was a little boy, initially, I didn't really think much of what my dad did for a living. I knew he played for the Yankees. That was his team. He said, but I thought all my friends' fathers played for teams, meaning not baseball, but if my friend's father worked for IBM, that was his team, IBM.
Right.
If he worked at the Glen Rock Athletic Club, that was his team, the Glen Rock AC.
Yeah.
So I thought everybody had a team. My dad's team happened to be the Yankees. That's where he worked. Yeah, didn't think anything
No big deal.
And I guess somewhere along the line, he said it suddenly clicked. Like I guess he heard news stories about his dad or heard his name mentioned a lot on TV. And he suddenly realized, oh, okay, wait a minute. This is a little different. So one day Mom took Jim and his brother to the airport to meet Dad, probably coming back from a road trip, I guess.
Yeah.
In those days, you could go right to the gate.
Right to the gate, yeah.
So here's Jim coming down the jetway into the terminal. And as he tells the story, Michael says he ran up to Jim, to his dad, and he looks at him and he says, Dad, you're Jim Bouton, aren't you? Now,
Like it was a revelation. Like all these years, you never told me.
Yeah, exactly. And Michael says, I'm not sure if I remember that story because I remember it happening, or if I remember my father telling it so many times on the banquet circuit.
Oh, there you go.
He says, I'm really not sure, but it happened.
It happened.
But
right.
yeah, and it seems like a memory that I have. So,
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy.
It's great. It's great that you were able to pull all these together. Sons of Baseball, mark on your calendar, not July 11, mark your calendar, June 11. It's going to be from, I think we have it 4 to 6?
I believe so.
We're going to have 4 to 6. You're going to see, I'm going to put a flyer up here right now so you'll see the dates. If you don't know where the Glen Rock Athletic Club, it's on Main Street. Look it up. We're going to post the address right here. And make sure you come down. Talk to Mark. 2.5 years.
2.5 years. Yeah, it took 2.5 years, yeah.
And then it took you probably longer than that to try to figure out how to market it.
Yeah, well, that's included
the way
in that whole...
The way they want
Oh,
it.
just,
Yeah.
the whole thing with the, having to do the book proposal and find an agent.
Well, you thought writing the book was hard enough. Then you had to figure out the rest.
I thought I was done. The end.
Right.
Finished. No.
It's just beginning.
It was just beginning. It was,
well,
oh my
it's
God.
over now. Here's the book. Make sure you come down June 11 and get the gift for your dads, your grandfathers, your uncles. It's just a fun read, and there's some great stories, and I think you're going to enjoy it.
And if nothing else, it's an excuse to come out and have a couple drinks.
That's right. They have a full bar here. You play a little shuffleboard, play a little pool. They have a great area out back, and I think you're going to have a great day. So thank you so much for coming.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, and happy Father's Day to you.
Thank you. Same to you.
And happy Father's Day to all you guys out there. Have a great Father's Day, and hopefully we'll see you on June 11th at the GRAC. All right, be well, everybody.